And from Harvard Eye Associates, we want to welcome back to our program once again, Dr. John Hovannisian. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you, Michael. Great to be back.
Always good to check in with you once a month, and we always talk about some interesting stuff. This one we're going to be talking about a myopia epidemic. A new study came out and said there's a lot of rising rates. A lot of the study was done in Asia, but here in the United States they have some information as well. So let's talk about what myopia is. Most people call it nearsightedness, right?
That's right. Nearsightedness or myopia is common and known to most of us, although a little confusing. Those terms can be confusing. Basically, to be nearsighted means that your eyes have a natural focus point. For your distance focus point is not out there at distance, at infinity. It's more like closer than that. And so if you're nearsighted, very often you can read great without glasses at any age, but distance vision is a little blurry. And these are folks who usually need glasses to pass a DMV test, or to go to the movies and watch this
and actually enjoy it and see it.
And see it clearly, exactly.
So what's going on in the eye structure? What's going wrong maybe in the eye structure that's causing this? What's actually happening inside my eye or someone's eye who has myopia?
Yeah, the most common cause of myopia is just during development that the eye grows. And just think about it this way, the eyeball is longer. And so because it's longer, the light rays don't come into focus at the retina, but they come in focus in front of it. And so the net effect is what I described, that you just don't see well far away.
Okay, so you're not seeing well far away, and it's a kind of structural growth. So maybe is there an important link in the study that says it's these children that are becoming more and more having issues with myopia while they're developing, the eyes are developing, right?
Well, our bodies and our eyes grow in a couple stages. We know in our infancy, the body grows dramatically, and so does the eye. And so we kind of grow into nearsightedness or grow away from farsightedness, I guess, at that young age. And then there's another growth spurt for the body and the eye that happens usually in our early teen years, so around 10 to age 13. And so that's the time we often see kids who aren't nearsighted become nearsighted. They start wearing glasses when they're around middle school, at the most socially awkward time to have such a change in their lives.
Always such a good time.
Right, and so when the eye grows, then the eye can become nearsightedness nearsighted if it grows enough.
So what do the studies say about health and social impacts of myopia and blindness, actually?
Well, it's a big problem because we're seeing it grow across the world. And, for example, in Asia, we look back at the 1970s, maybe 20–30% of the population of kids was nearsighted. Today it is in certain advanced countries, so Singapore and Taiwan and South Korea, the rates of nearsightedness among kids are about 90% of kids. And in some subpopulations, almost 100%. It's crazy, the incidence. Here in the US, it's not as dramatic. In the 70s, about 20 to 25% of kids were nearsighted. Now it's about 35, pushing 40. But we expect by 2050, that number is going to double again. It'll be more than half of kids in the US will be nearsighted. So
and that was really surprising to me in terms of like that 2050 number, where like half of the children in basically the US and the world will be nearsighted.
Well, already right now, we think as many as 1/3 of the children in the world, across the world, are nearsighted. And in India, for example, we don't have great data, but they sure have a big population. And all of this, most people's initial reaction is, so what, get some glasses. Well, that alone is difficult in some populations,
right? In some places, right.
In poor countries, folks are going to be limited from how well they can take care of themselves. But it goes far, far beyond that, doesn't it? Nearsightedness has a lot of implications for eye health.
Right. Well, now the study found that, it's not just genetics. We're not all just rapidly changing our genetics or just evolving into this direction, right? So they found that there were some environmental impacts going on here as well.
We think that the evolution, and we don't entirely understand that, but we think that at least part of the influence in this is these little rectangles we carry around, as the screens, the screen time we spend. We don't want to blame everything on that, but there certainly is a correlation between screen time and development of nearsightedness.
Well, I mean, kids. I don't know if it's a wives' tale, but when I was a kid, don't stop watching so much TV, you're going to ruin your eyes, right? And maybe there's some truth to that?
Yeah, well, particularly if you're very close.
Okay.
So what we think is that stimulus to look at things way up close drives nearsightedness because you've you're stimulating the muscles of accommodation, which are linked
they're
to
constantly squeezing at that rate all the time.
yeah, and it drives the eye to become more nearsighted. And so we talk a lot about the 20-20-20 rule, which is the rule that and this is for adults too. It's good for your brain, good for your eyes. Every 20 minutes, take a break at least 20 seconds to look at objects that are at least 20 feet away. And it's good to get up too, because you physically, give your body a little exercise. But go outside is best, where there's sunlight. That's associated with preventing this nearsightedness.
Okay. Now that's not new though. I've heard that for many, many years. So like, hey, you take a break from the screen, look at something in the distance, right? So how long have we known that that's just a good way to kind of prevent issues with the eye?
We've known for some time, and it's just become much more relevant because we're worried about the diseases that are going to come from this nearsightedness that are unquestionably going to happen in these populations where it's so common.
And in the Asian countries that maybe, like you said, they're developing countries that are developing a lot faster, they're getting these screens. This is kind of like, it's an explosion there. Is it because of the fact that there's so many people now have the access to these phones, and that's their way of life?
It is, in many places, it is they may not have great water, but somehow they have internet connectivity. When I go to remote areas in Armenia where we do volunteer work, we see kids who've all got phones. It's usually because they inherited them from their parents who got a newer phone. They're inexpensive, service is inexpensive, and it's ubiquitous. But the diseases that come from it are important, so let's talk about those for a second.
Absolutely.
So if you have nearsightedness and you are in the milder ranges, of course, the risks are mild. But for every 1 unit of nearsightedness, 1 diopter we call it, you have about a 20% increased risk of having retinal detachment.
Okay.
Retinal detachment is a blinding condition. Yeah. And just to put it in perspective, what's a diopter? If you have 1 diopter of nearsightedness, that's a pretty mild amount. Your focus point is about 1 meter away from your face. Beyond that, things are a little fuzzy. You might be able to pass a DMV test without glasses. If you're 2 diopters, it's half that distance. 3 diopters, it's a third of a meter, and so on. And so the more nearsighted you are, the longer the eye is, the greater the risk of disease, and of course the blurrier the vision is right from the get-go.
Okay.
But with a 20% increased risk per diopter, somebody who's got 8 diopters of nearsightedness, actually it goes up, it's not linear. So somebody with 8 diopters of nearsightedness has anywhere from a 15 to a 200 times risk of a normal person of having retinal detachment.
Well, what is causing the retinal to detach, I guess, is the question. Because of the strain you're putting on the eye?
So the length of the eye means that the development of tissues is just different. And so the neurologic tissue, which is kind of set at birth, sort of stretches, and there are forces that put traction on the retina that can cause it to detach. That's the simplest way to explain it. There are diseases that happen in the retina. But it's not just retinal detachment. There's macular degeneration is a disease most people know because of the age-related form of that disease. But there is a form that's called myopic macular degeneration. And the risk is similar to retinal detachment. It goes way up. And it's a blinding condition that can happen in young people.
Oh, wow.
So that's increased. Cataract risk goes up and of course, cataract is treatable if you live in a developed country.
Right, but if you don't, it's almost like it's a sentence for blindness for your life.
That's right. It causes blindness. Glaucoma is much more common in people with nearsightedness. So, we're looking at a big epidemic, not just of people who need glasses or contact lenses, but people who are potentially going blind globally.
Right, and the range of the eye diseases that are attached to this is really amazing.
It's broad. Yeah, it's really broad.
Yeah. And so, what are some of the treatments? What are some of the preventions that people can do?
Yeah, great question. So. We talked about screen time.
Right.
Certainly, we can treat the vision with glasses or contact lenses, but there are some other things as well. So there are eye drops. Atropine, low-dose atropine eye drops are being used with good success around the world. We soon will have one FDA approved here in the U.S. Currently, most doctors prescribe them through compounding pharmacies, so it is legal to get them. But the legal means of doing that are through these compounding pharmacies, and they work. They're not terribly expensive, and they help to prevent the progression. There are contact lenses. There are a couple of different companies that have contact lenses FDA approved for and that have shown effectiveness to slow down the progression. Some of the eye doctors I talk to who prescribe these feel that the contacts work the best, although mixed opinions. And large studies really haven't absolutely settled on this. If I had a child who was at that range of nearsightedness, I'd probably use the drops and have them in the contact lenses to limit it.
And but also those factors of without, if you don't have the access to the medical field, you don't have access to those things. It's limit that screen time, get outside. I mean, like outside in sunlight and just looking at this can really be a huge factor, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does make a difference. And so we encourage that for everybody. It's good for kids for lots of reasons to spend as much time outside as they can. So thankfully we live here in great California weather, so it's easy for us. But if you've got kids or grandkids who are nearsighted or are at risk of it, they've probably been screened in school, but they ought to be followed by doctors, and if they're particularly becoming more nearsighted, you really need to run toward that problem and do what you can to keep it from getting worse.
All right, folks, good information, good stuff, always from Harvard Eye Associates and Dr. John Hovhannissian. Thank you for joining us. Great to see you, as always.
Great to see you, Michael, always.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.